right, this is your last video of lesson 8, and we have a couple of scenarios that we're just going to look at and think about where we would round to. So Una drives 12 and 935 thousandths kilometers on her bike this weekend. About how many kilometers does Una ride? So would it make sense to round to the hundredths, the tenths, the ones, or the tens place? Think about it for a minute. Okay. I don't know about you, but I think you could say Una rides 13 kilometers because you see that in the tens place we have a 9. So that's really close to 13, right? And it's not super important how far she rode. So I think we could just round to 13, the closest ones, right? So we're going to round to the ones. We're going to look next door at the tenths, and the tenths are going to tell us we're really close to 13. So 13 kilometers. All right, let's look at the next scenario. Next, we have Mr. Evans spent $38.47 at the grocery store. About how much does Mr. Evans spend? Okay, so should we round to the tens, ones, tenths, or hundredths? Well, it depends because this is about money, right? So we are going to round. We could say that he spent $38.50 and round to the nearest tenths, right? Since it's money, we are going to want to write the 0 in there. We'd look at the 4 and we look next door, and the 7 tells us we're closer to 50 cents. We could say $38.50. Or we could say, we could move the tens and look next door to the ones, and we could say he spent about $40 because 38 is very close to 40, right? Looking at our ones place tells us that we're very close to 40. So we could say he spent $40. Did you agree with that? Okay, thanks guys. Just a couple more things to talk about when we're talking about rounding decimals before you get into your practice work. We have to sometimes think about what makes sense with a scenario, right? If we're choosing which place we're going to round to, we're going to make sure we understand the problem first and then think about which place makes the most sense for the answer we're looking for. If we're not using a number line and we're trying to do it by mental math, then we're going to think about the unit we're rounding to, and then we're going to think what's one more than that, and then what's halfway between the two numbers, and then we're going to say which one is it closer to, right? Is it closer to the top number or closer to the bottom number? Remembering that that middle number is really just there to show us how close we are to either one. And we do rounding. And this is interesting because this gets stuck to a lot of kids, that rounding might be harder than actual math, but exact math. But rounding is making it easier for us. All right. So we're going to round because we want to make it simpler to think about or talk about. And sometimes we might need the exact number. Like if Mr. Evans needs to turn in this to his boss to get repaid for the amount of money that he spent on treats for the office, well, then he might want it down to the actual penny. But if he's just saying to his friend, I spent about $40 on bananas this weekend, right? It doesn't have to be exact. So we have to think about the situation. All right, go ahead and do your problem set. Thanks a lot for your hard work. Aloha.